Greetings, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. This week, the long-awaited Baker-Hamilton report was issued trying to recommend solutions insofar as the debacle and the disaster in Iraq is concerned. And subsequent to the release, Tony Blair from England met with President Bush, and then they gave a joint press conference yesterday, which happened to be on the 65th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, when the Japanese forces attacked the United States. But during the press conference, it became obvious that both world leaders did not agree insofar as what to do in Iraq. The Baker-Hamilton report suggested, and Tony Blair apparently agreed with that negotiations should now be held also involving Iran and Syria in an unconditional way. Whereas President Bush insisted that before those negotiations could take place, Iran would have to give up its uranium enrichment program, and Syria would have to stop meddling in Lebanon and stopping supporting terrorism in Iraq. At the same time, Israel became very concerned, and the Israeli newspapers have stated that, first of all, the report totally neglected Israel's considerations, and they are also now afraid that President Bush will shift his policy somewhat because he did approve of a travel by Tony Blair to the Middle East, and apparently for the purpose of bringing about some kind of peace and peace talks. And so they are afraid that they are now going to be isolated, losing their last main supporter. And we also see, of course, a rift now developing between the United States of America and Great Britain. At the same time, another very powerful player was trying to appear on the world scene. And that player is none other than Germany. Germany stated that they would be more than happy and more than willing to become the key negotiator if President Bush should allow Iran and Syria to get involved in the process. Now, Germany has recently started to unilaterally talk to Syria, something which some of the European countries even didn't like. Now, it is interesting, in light of all these elements and these events as they are taking place, that something like it was prophesied to happen in the Bible, in some cases more than 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. Now, how could people have known that unless they were inspired by God Almighty? They said that in those last days, the United States of Europe under German leadership would get heavily involved in peace negotiations in the Middle East. They said that the state of Israel would end up totally isolated. And they also even said that the United States of America and Great Britain would reach a point where they would even be at odds with each other, and that both world-leading powers would not have the influence anymore as they still have today. And on top of that, they talked about a United States of Europe even from a military standpoint. And it is perhaps interesting that now we hear more and more about a European army, especially because of the success which we could witness by European troops in Congo. And then we have heard more and more about the Catholic Church getting involved, trying to bring about a Christian unified Europe, and that was prophesied to happen in the Bible as well. Now, we have seen the beginnings. We haven't seen yet that it has been completed, but we are seeing the attempts to bring it about. It is interesting to see that in light of the fact that these things were written, as I said, sometimes more than 2,000 years ago, which should encourage all of us to understand that this was not just written by feeble men. These men wrote it under the inspiration of God, because only God could have known what would happen in those last days. For you to understand and to learn more about the biblical proof for what I have said today on this program, please read our free booklet, Europe in Prophecy, and also read our booklet, which is also free, The Fall and Rise of Britain and America. And if you want to really go into biblical prophecy, please read our free booklet, The Great Tribulation and the Day of the Lord. Thanks very much for watching, and until next time, this is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.